an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more
Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. Just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Welcome one, welcome all, and it is that time for Roundtable Live here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be rolling on till 4 a.m. in the morning Eastern Time. New ideas, different hosts every night, different subjects every night. You never know what's going to happen right here at the Roundtable Live. King Arthur has nothing on us. We're going round and round.
Welcome to Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. My name is Noreen Helphand, and I'm broadcasting to you live from Southern California, where it is 9 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And this show is on Studio A here on the website, or if you're in a listening, calling it like a listening in number, we have that too, which is listed on the website for freedomslips.com. And my show is listed at the top for Mondays Pacific Daylight Time, 9 p.m. to 11. And the server for this station is on the East Coast, so that would be Eastern Daylight Time. So my show would be 12 midnight around Tuesday. That all depends on what part of the world you're tuning in to the station from. So Revolution Radio is a listener support internet venue. So we do depend on your generosity. It could be a small amount of money or more, whatever you can do. And you can find out how you can support the station by going to the top of the website, and you can click on donate money. You can buy things from the Zazzle store. You can subscribe to archives, $5.95 a month. You never miss a show. There's many ways to support the station. If you want to do snail mail, a check, money order, go down, scroll to the bottom of the site, and you will see staff member Terry Ackerman. And you can mail that, make the check or whatever out to Revolution Radio, mail it to her address. It's listed on the bottom of the page. So I want to say I'm very honored, to say the least. I'm very honored to have, someone who's never been on my show before. I'm not even sure. I don't think he's been on any show on this station. And he's a very interesting person. And I'd like to say hello to Masaki. So you can unmute your mic now.
Hi, Noreen. Glad to be here.
Hey, it's wonderful. Thank you for having me on your Patreon show yesterday. That was really fun. And may I say your last name? That's cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So your name is Masaki Miyagawa. Yeah, so you're Japanese American. So, because that name is very Japanese, and that's cool. You and I connected through Robert Phoenix, which he's going to be a guest on my show here fairly soon. He's actually a listener to this station. He's into, like he said, I listen to Giuseppe, Scorpio, Hijacker, people that are kind of regulars on this station. And so I found that to be kind of interesting because, this world of alternative information it's pretty small, but whenever you hear about somebody, tuning into what you're into, it can be kind of interesting because of all the connectivity that we have with, people in this world, I guess you could say. And Robert is an astrologer, and he is also a, like a truther. He does a lot of great research, as you know. And a lot of people like him and you really add to the knowledge base of what we're looking at every day with this whole crazy world. And it's always good, in my opinion, to expand and broaden your contacts and broaden, people who have a lot of information. You can never learn enough, and I think you guys are people that are pretty much good examples of, hey, there's so much information out there that, it's really deep, but it's really great, and it's really great to learn new things. So, thank you. And with that, let me see. I'm gonna introduce, what you're good at and what you've been involved with. You are an artist, speaker, and you're a consultant, and you're down here where I live in Southern California. You're in LA. You've been doing this for over 10 years, kind of all these esoteric modalities that you're involved with, which one of them would be free energy, and you make argon pyramids, and you're into creating an actual physical product based upon your research. And we'll get into your family background and other things a little bit later. But I mean, if you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about, your research and your products with dealing with free energy and all that, go for it. This is really a great chance for you to share.
Sure. So my name's Masaki Miyagawa. Very Japanese name.
Yeah.
But my family, like many Japanese Americans, have been here in California. I think for almost 100 years, because they came before World War II. My dad's side was in Hawaii and then came to the mainland. My mom was in my mom's family came as priests, Buddhist priests, to serve the Japanese American community. So even though a very Japanese name, I'm as American as apple pie,
No, of course you are.
Yeah.
When I said your name is very Japanese, but you're like a fourth generation, right?
Well,
yeah.
it helps though, that because when I've traveled in Asia, if you have a Japanese name, you have, the Japanese kanji or characters. They come from China, so you can use, it. When I was younger, it was a little more difficult, but now I'm glad to represent, the Japanese side. And over time, I've found that although people think that they're very separate, we're all very connected, and there's definitely a story on this planet that connects all of us, no matter what culture, what background you come from.
Sure.
And I would say I always had interest in maybe things that are kind of Aquarian, like the new wave, different kinds of music. Even when I was younger, like those robot toys coming from Japan. A lot of them had cartoons or shows connected to them, but I would be getting the toys from Japan as a kid before anybody else, because we have a little Tokyo here. So even on that tip, as a kid, I had interests that I found the normal things kind of boring. So when you when you become an adult, I don't think it's a surprise that kind of mindset translated to being really interested in fringe topics. So I was just like many of your listeners, spent many thousands of hours over the past couple decades just listening to people talk 360 degrees of the so-called alternative research. But there came a point where I think it's good to know about what's on the so-called playing board, or what exists, right? Because most people, obviously, if you're listening to Revolution Radio, you're a little bit different than the average person, right? We're kind of really interested in what the truth is, even if it's outside the realm of your normal thinking, right? So I think that that's good, but like we were talking the other day, once you have a good grasp of, or you have a feel for what's going on, as far as, it usually starts out as the Federal Reserve and the bankers, and then you find out, oh, they're not just bankers, they're in these fraternal orders and secret societies of Freemasonry. You're like, okay. Then you start finding out that they're talking to interdimensional entities. And then your mind starts getting blown to another level. So, you start finding out about all these things. And I think maybe in some way, whatever people think about Q and QAnon, things did seem to blow up to another level as far as more mainstream. Soccer moms in middle America started talking about, human trafficking and things that we were talking about like 10 or 20 years ago, right? So I think that although it's still a relatively small percentage of the population, our kind of people and these topics have become much more mainstream in the last 5 years or so. And so once you have a grasp of, or you kind of have an idea of these agendas that are going on and so forth, well, then you come to a critical point, right? Because then knowing all this, what do you do about it? Because a lot of these agendas are much larger than you as one person can change, right? But there are such things as, say, the orgonite or orgone pyramids and different kind of energy tools. And so I think that there's sort of a continuum or spectrum. On one end, you have the far conspiracy, and the other end, you have more the healing and holistic. And once you become involved in something, let's say as an energy tool, I make energy pyramids, right? The orgonite or so-called orgone pyramids. It's very simple combination of quartz crystal,
right,
metal shavings and metal particles, and then plastic resin to hold it together. It's basically like a sculpture, right? And to somebody else, it might just, they're saying like, what is this? This is an oddball combination of things. But guess what? You put this together, you cast it into a pyramid shape, it will give you better sleep. We are in a sea of electromagnetic kind of chaotic energies and frequencies from electronic devices now. We don't even realize how much we're being affected. But once you are able to be in a space that's very calm, balanced, energetically, and so forth, it's very refreshing. And not only that, you start to move out of the so-called fear-based mentality, and you say, hey, I did something, or I'm in contact with something that has a positive benefit. For example, I make a pyramid and I gift it to someone, or they buy it from my shop. I get the feedback, wow, I got better sleep, or I'm feeling like I have more energy and so forth. That's real. It's kind of mind-blowing when you start hearing the feedback and so forth, or you're working with it hands-on, right? And maybe it's one by one, but that's a major shift from focused all day. Because I think a lot of our kind of people can be kind of obsessive about really getting to the root of what's going on. But you keep obsessing about these dark agendas, these nefarious things that are going on. It can lead you to some dark places, right? So you need to offset that with, okay, knowing that, what simple things can we do to improve our lifestyle, our energy, and it can actually be very exciting too. So I think this is all part of the Aquarian trend that's happening right now.
I concur, and I think it's great that you get positive feedback about your projects. It's very important because, and I'm not doubting your science, but some people might doubt their own capacities and then not know if, what they're creating is effective. But obviously, if you're getting good feedback, that is like excellent. It's almost like getting good reviews on Yelp. I'm just kidding, but it's kind of but you get that one-on-one feedback.
Well, I think one thing that you mentioned is well, how do you know? Is it just placebo and so forth? There's definitely ways to test the energy. Some people use pendulum dowsing. There's muscle testing, which was made famous by a lot of herbalists and holistic practitioners.
Sure.
The muscle test, right? This is actually something people can do at home. Even if you don't have, say, a positive energy tool, pretty much everybody has a smartphone now, right? Which is
right.
It's like a mini Wi-Fi or cell tower in your hand, right? So muscle test, what you would do is first get a baseline, with nothing, right? So usually helps to have another person test you. So you could stand up, and then the dominant arm, most of us are right-handed, right? So you would extend your right arm straight out in front of you, and then just try to keep it straight, okay? And then you can have your friend lightly place their hand, their palm on your wrist, the extended wrist, right? And then push down a couple times lightly, just to get a baseline. How much is the person resisting? And the person being tested, just try to keep your arm straight out in front of you, right? So the tester puts their hand lightly on your wrist, the extended arm, push down a couple times. Okay, we see how much, that's like baseline, right?
Right.
Now, take that smartphone or anything you want to test in the other hand. So for me, it would be the left hand. Put the smartphone in your left hand, put it to your chest, and again, test it again. If you're right-handed, you have your right arm extended out. Have the tester put their palm again on your wrist, push down. I can guarantee you will not be able to keep your arm up. And this is on standby. That's not even on the call. And I've tested things as small as, say, a Fitbit for the joggers, or the Apple Watch, which is pretty small. I mean, it's a sizable watch, right?
Right.
Very surprising. It tested basically the same as a full-size smartphone. And
Wow.
that's telling you your body's saying, you know what? Whatever this is, I don't like it. And conversely, on the positive side, the higher the etheric energy, right, or the positive energy of, say, a pyramid, there's a number of energy pendants, right? You can test that, and the stronger it is, the more difficult it will be to push the arm down. So that's the easy way, and it's free, basically, right? That's the easy way to test any energy tool. And things are kind of like, things are starting to open up now here in the US and California, right? So if you happen to go to some kind of gem show, where they have crystals, or Conscious Life Expo or something like that, if you want to test it, that's an easy way to do it. And I found too that people like something visual to see, and it has blown people's minds, and it's really fun to because most people, they're totally unaware of these frequencies, or these energies. Typically, they're invisible to the naked eye. So once you start showing people something very basic, but you don't have to say anything. I leave it up to the person. So, well, we just did that. Now it's up to you to figure it out. Like, why did your body react why does your body react so positively to certain things and negatively to others? So that's a good way for, I suggest people to try it out. And I've done that all along since the beginning. And I think that energy tools such as the Organite pyramids, it's a great entry point into energy work. And what I observed is just changing little things. So the material, the shape of the casting, is it a high slope pyramid, which we call Nubian pyramid, or is it the typical lower slope Giza pyramid? There's definitely, the energy is different. So just changing little things and over the years of making hundreds of castings, that informed me a lot. Okay, if I use this material, is stronger. If I use more crystal, is stronger. And so forth. So, great way, these energy tools, to have hands-on self knowledge of what works and what doesn't work.
Right, yeah. I've done muscle testing once in a while. But that's a good idea to use in lieu of, say, like what you create, because right away you can tell, like you're tuned into something you made your own, or you're at a gem show, or, whatever you're looking for, and you just tune right into that. Speaking of healing, yeah, the pyramids are interesting. I think I mentioned to you, there's a personal friend, he's deceased, but he used to be a host on the station named Rectify was his nickname, and he was into building these with Dr. Fred Bell. So, that's kind of how, and when I was visiting him, I would put his pyramid on my head. So, yeah, I don't think they're easy to make. Like you said, it's not just the science, right? It's also the intuition that goes along with the whole product.
Well, what I'll say is, for, say, the orgonite, on my site, and say when I post up photos on Instagram, I actually don't say orgonite because the guy has a copyright on that term. So I'll say orgo pyramid, but it's known popularly as orgonite, right? Okay. And again, it's just a combination of the plastic resin, quartz crystal. Quartz is an amplifier, right? And it also kind of like stabilizes the energy. And then the metal shavings or metal particles. And I also add shungite, which is a carbon-based stone from Russia. A lot of people have heard like C60, right? The C60 supplement. Well, carbon 60 is actually, that's what shungite is composed of, and it's a natural EMF shield, So
shungite, yeah, I have it around me right here. I know what you're talking about with the EMF that works.
So so if you add shungite to any, orgonite casting, orgonite pyramid, it's gonna double the power, immediately. But the directions for making these pyramids are online. There's a basic 101. I would suggest people look up like Orgonite Pyramid 101 or Don Croft. Don Croft and Carol Croft, they really set the standard in the 90s for the Orgonite recipe, and all the way up to power devices, because the typical Orgonite pyramids, it's just like a sculpture, right? It's not powered, but you can actually make an antenna coil, cast it into the pyramid, and then connect the electrical wire leads to a frequency generator, and that will, now you're basically broadcasting frequencies, right? And you can pick specific frequencies like 432. There's very common popular frequencies, and yeah, that'll multiply the power times 10. So the Don Croft and Carol Croft, who was Don Croft, he has the big name, but his wife Carol Croft, she was an intuitive, so she really was also very involved in the whole Orgonite movement. Sure. But if you follow the Don Croft recipe, you really can't go wrong. But so I would say from the first time, if you just follow the directions online, you can make a piece that has the energy you want. But it's the aesthetics, right? And of course, coming from the Japanese background, get a little obsessive. So let's say when I started out, I cast pyramids every day for like a month before I got a pyramid that I really felt I was pleased with. Like, okay, not only does it have the energy, but now it's looking, like an art piece, because to me, now it depends what your focus is, right? Because you can make very rough pieces even with like a muffin mold, and they'll come out. They call the muffin shaped ones tower busters, because they were, you would, before the 5G, you could toss like 2-3 of these little muffin shaped orgonite pieces called tower busters, because you could just, do and just like and just kind of drop them by a cell tower, and it would flip the energy, right?
Wow.
Now, because of the power of these cellular, antennas are becoming more and more, they're more intense. Maybe you have to drop like, 4 or 6 muffins or something like that. And these would be very rough pieces, right? It's just for the utility of it. But to me, making pyramids, it's form and function. To me, it should be beautiful, but then also have a positive energy. So it took me a while to get to that point. But if people are interested in, just getting into it and trying it out, you can, find the directions online and start from there. So
yeah, I'm looking at your website again here, and I like your site because it makes your product line look very like easy to understand compared to, because this kind of science could be complex for people, right? So
yeah. Well, my website's akaida.com. It's
right.
akaida.com. That was actually my artist DJ name for years, so it just became my pyramid site.
Okay.
But it's interesting what you were saying about, making it understandable.
Yes.
Is I think it's just my personality, or what I feel is, okay, you can get deep into these subjects, but I like when you apply the occult or metaphysical knowledge in a practical way. And then doing that, how do you convey the message, or get people into or understanding what you're doing in the most the simplest way, right? So, and everybody has their aesthetics. So some people, they like to talk above the crowd and use big words, but I think at this time we need to get this kind of movement and information out to as many people as we can. And not just that, it can, number one, it's I think because of there's so much frequencies around us now, as far as like the Wi-Fi, 5G towers, and so forth, I think that people should really consider using these tools just like they have sneakers, right? Or it should be just like daily wear, because that's how intense it's becoming as far as the frequencies. Right. But it can be something fun too. And like I said, once you start becoming the magician, right? You start wielding the power, understanding the world around you and saying, hey, it's pretty obvious. We're getting hammered by these electronic frequencies. Well, it's just like Aikido or martial arts, right? You just flip the energy and you say, in my home, I'm sovereign. My home is my castle. So I think you can apply, I think a lot of your listeners will be aware of this. You can apply a lot of the mentality of the state citizen, sovereign citizen movement to the energetics. Then it becomes very powerful. And I think it's also good, like I was saying, start getting out of the fear-based mentality and say, hey, you know what? We actually do have power. And one by one, if people start doing this, we can start shifting the planet in the direction that we like.
Correct. So before you actually got into developing these creations, would you say, because some people at a young age, right, they get like a feeling of, oh, I'm kind of destined to do something like this, but was that the case with you? Like you had?
Oh, I had no idea.
Okay.
And that kind of puzzles me because you looked at my astrological chart, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So, very fixed Scorpio Sun, Taurus
Yeah.
rising, Taurus Moon, but then also I'm very intuitive, and then Scorpio can be kind of like controlling, right? So,
Yeah.
and and I don't know how this is for other intuitive people, but I can, and I am a reader too. I do numerology readings, uh, and I'm, can basically do psychic readings and those kinds of things.
Right.
So I can pick up a lot of information, but then I don't know. It's probably the wrong way to think, but up to a certain point, I felt like, oh yeah, I can see globally where things are going. I can predict a lot of things, but some of the best things and most exciting things in my life, it just happened. I think it was destined to happen, but definitely, maybe there are people that grow up thinking I'm going to become a pyramid maker, but I had no idea that was going to happen. But once I started getting into it, uh, you know, it was basically my whole life because um, I didn't, I wasn't casually doing it. It became a business, and then
Sure.
any business also. Those first couple years, try making your income esoteric pyramids. It was kind of rough, but I think the things about it I liked was it's interesting. It has to do with energy work, but then also once you start working for yourself, and I think that I, like many of your listeners, are kind of like oddballs. I could think whatever I want. I don't have any coworkers to argue with me or whatever. I can work on my pyramids. I can listen to, shows like yours while I'm working, So, and that way I love the freedom of doing what I do,
Yeah, the freedom is interesting. And you were saying that I'm getting a feeling that your intuition part of you was maybe you were more in tune with that initially, and then that kind of led you to the creations that you do, or would you say it's the other way around?
I had a couple organite pyramids a few years before it even came in my mind to make them myself. They were from Organized Africa in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Wow.
And, it's George Rischel, who's a German national who moved down to South Africa. And so I got some of their pyramids. And at a certain point, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to start doing this myself. But then, like I said, then I got obsessed. And it was interesting, too. I think around 2014 or 2015, I talked to George Rischel from Organized Africa for about an hour. It was an interview. And the things that he was saying, I felt, so this was within the first year of starting, making pyramids. I felt my life change because some of the things he was talking about really related to what I was saying about, getting out of the fear-based mentality, just working the energies and these kinds of things, which you don't hear a lot from the conspiracy sphere. A lot of it's, they're truthful, real things that are happening, but a lot of it's so, I don't want to call it negative, but I think you need to offset that or balance that with something proactive that you can do, and the energy tools is something that anybody can get into,
I posted the links you gave me in the chat room. But I'm going to say it out loud for the listeners. So he has a website with really great photos of his products and creations called on ikaida.com, as you mentioned earlier. And then you have a YouTube channel, under this, well, it's Ikaida TV. All lowercase would be that. And then your Patreon would be Pyramid Power. So patreon.com/Pyramid Power.
So, yeah, I have some articles on my website, ikaida.com, and I have a number of interviews and videos I did myself just on some pyramid topics on Ikaida TV, on YouTube. And then I started a couple of years ago only posting certain things on Patreon because I knew we would come to this point. You see how locked down things are becoming now. So,
Censorship and all that. Yeah.
but then also, I also deal with the radionics, which is it's a homeopathic field, kind of using holographic energies, but also could be used for so-called boosting thought forms or intuition. Sure. And that's pretty wide open. And I think there's a difference between if people are familiar with the Rife machine or frequency healing, right? That's very much maybe more, I don't know if you want to call it scientific, but basically rifing, you're using frequency to clear out viruses, bacteria, and so forth.
Yeah, my friend, she gets to borrow different of those kinds of devices like that, and I've actually, been the recipient of trying them. Yeah, they're really interesting.
So, and I love Rife Machine. I've worked with the company Spooky 2. They're based in China, and they have a line of great products. But when you start getting into the radionics, on one end, it can be somewhat similar to rifing in that certain organs or certain conditions have a numbered rate, like could be like 6 digits or something, and it's basically a number, right? And you can work with that number, broadcast it, basically balance a client. But you start getting to the far end of radionics, it's basically what some people call like digital magic or something, because you're boosting intuitions, thought forms, manifestation. I bring that up because I think it's something that's really it's something that I think only select people are really meant to get into. I'll put it to you this way: it's very powerful. So I don't think that kind of thing should just be openly broadcast for free just to anybody on YouTube. although you could look it up and you could find stuff out on the internet. But even if it's like a $5 paywall, there are certain things that I put on my Patreon, the Pyramid Power Patreon. So yeah, so that's kind of like a couple of the sites. Each one has kind of a different thing. If you're interested in more information, some of the other shows I've been on, those kind of things. I have some up for free on the YouTube. I have more information on the Patreon.
Got it. I was looking at the some of the topics you were kind of throwing out to me today on this little bullet point, and we were talking about it earlier, like on your show yesterday, and even on the phone, about the Aquarian age and technology and other things. And also Masaki, he's really been into numerology lately, or for a while. So you want to maybe, let me think, the universal year this year is, let me think.
So 5.
It's a 5 year, exactly. Yeah. And I think when I think of, what's funny, I think of 3 and 5 energies is somewhat similar, but I know they're different. But so this year being a 5 year, 2021 is a 5. Okay, if you add it up equals 5. So can you maybe explain what you think about this year globally in terms of being a 5 year for us?
Sure. I mean, I actually did an article on this. So 5. So the typical numbers in the most popular numerology, which would be the Pythagorean numerology, goes 1 to 9, right? It's a 9-year cycle.
Sure.
5 being in the middle, right? It's does everything before and everything after, because it's right in the middle, right?
That's right.
It's Gemini energy, basically. It's a mercurial energy, and very interesting. So what I notice is a lot of these esoteric reading systems, there's a large degree of overlap. In my mind, we're all looking at a similar matrix framework. It just depends which method you use to pick it apart, right? So I don't think it's any mistake that 2021, so 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals 5, is mercurial, basically Gemini energy, and we are in true node Gemini, the lunar nodes, all this year. So you get a double confirmation right there that
that's
that
a lot of
we're it's a schizo year, right? It's open and closed at the same time.
Yeah, and I want to add that last year, which was the first year of the quote lockdown, was a 4-year. So that was serious energy. This year, it's not that it's not serious, but there's so much information on all fronts going back and forth and confusing people, and people are trying to communicate it and take action on it. So yeah, the energy's more kind of whipped up around all this stuff, right now.
So last year is 2020, right? 2 and 2 is 4.
Right.
So 4 is
Saturn,
Aquarius, Uranus energy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically turning everything upside down, right? And look what happened last year. I think everybody in the whole world was affected.
Mm-hmm.
And but not just that, although the typical numerology, it's like a 9-year cycle, but literally in 2020 you see 22, right? So you can consider it like 22-4. And so we have a special set of numbers, the 11, 22, 33, the so-called master numbers. So 11 would be like, say, psychic channel. 22 would have that intuitive element, but they call master builder.
Right.
And it can have an Aquarian streak also, because 2 and 2 is 4, 4 being Aquarius Uranus energy. 33 would be like spiritual teacher. Okay. But last year was 22-4, or it's, you could look at it. It's very obvious to me. If you see 2020, you see 2-2, right? So I did an article at the end of 2019 saying that 2020 would be the first year of the reset. And I was thinking more economically. I just didn't think a viral outbreak would be the thing to kick it off. Mm-hmm. But 22 being the number of the master builder, or so-called master mason, right? So 2020 would be a year to start a great new project. Maybe something that's up on the internet called the Great Reset. So
yeah, by the World Economic Forum of all groups.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I just find that when you start getting into these esoteric reading systems, it's very informative for people that are familiar with, say, like Carl Jung, right?
Sure.
Basically, our world revolves around archetypes, symbols, cycles, these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So the metaphysical esoteric reading systems are a very good way to start. I think it takes you to another level, because you can still keep tabs or read the news items and listen to the alternative research shows and so forth. But you can start, coming up with your own read of what's going on, in addition to what just, because there's a point where you're just like in the audience, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just taking in everything that other people are saying. But then when you start, becoming more versed in the reading systems like tarot, astrology, numerology, and so forth, it takes you to another level. And then also, if you start doing readings, that sharpens you up even more, because there's nobody to tell you, like there's no hand holding. I'll put it to you that way, right? Mm-hmm. Especially, I've done readings in person. Most of the time it's online, but do it in person, and I think it helps build your confidence of what read you're getting also, right? Because I think one of the major things that everyone, including myself, has had to overcome, or it's a challenge, is trusting yourself. Because that's one thing. The powers that be, they do not want people having knowledge of self or trusting your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, everybody has it, because I can tell you for sure, everyone at some point in their life has had a gut feeling, and you could say, like, you know what, I feel like I shouldn't go to the party today, or
Right.
there's something about this guy, I don't know what it is, but
Sure.
it feels off. But you know what? You know what happens? Most people like, you know what? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be mean or whatever. Guess what? If something's telling you something's off,
You may want to follow
you
it.
might want to follow that. And that's exactly, I think that's one of the reasons why we're in the pickle we're in today.
Right.
It's a great lesson that's happening on the planet right now, because for people that are the Robert Phoenix Chatlandia people will know the carjack.
Yeah. That, let me just interpret that, you guys. We have all these various terms that we throw around for the quote jab, and Robert uses carjack. I think that's a great one.
Right.
Personally, yeah.
The pharmaceutical carjack that's going on.
Yes, exactly.
I think a lot of it, of course, is due to fear, because most people have no idea what's going on in the world. All they know is their world is crumbling and they want to, quote unquote, go back to normal, right?
Yeah.
But another part of it is they don't trust themselves. They're putting their power in the wrong people. In the pharmaceutical industry, they're putting the power in the hands of the politicians, the bankers, and so forth. Because basically, I think the human race has a low self-esteem, you know?
Yes, there's something going on.
Well, we've been so hammered, not only in this life, but collectively as a human race, the rise and fall of civilizations, and that biblical flood, that actually happened.
Yeah.
And it's happened multiple times over the history of this planet. So you're talking about a trauma of that scale. It's like we got hit on the head so hard. We don't want to remember what happened, but
that's really key you say that, because I'm feeling that might be why. And this is about past lives, although you guys don't have to believe in them. That's not what I'm trying to push here. But when you're talking about all these events like floods over millennia and all this, maybe for some people, right, energetically, the reason, for example, why there's such a division right now with all these topics with people is maybe in their past lives or whatever on this earth plane, they experience that something's differently from, say, you and me, or we experience them differently from them. And maybe this is where, when something negative happens, right, you get triggered. And so then some people are going to go, okay, well, my intuitive past life thing is telling me, because I experienced that means that.
Well,
now. So that could be that.
I think that's exactly true what you're saying. There's some of us, wherever it's coming from, right? Mm-hmm. We have a gut feeling of, hey, we've seen this before. When a large chunk of the public, they honestly cannot see what's happening. Because if you really knew what was happening, you wouldn't go along to get along. Because it would be deleterious. It would be opposite to good health, you know? But if you honestly do not understand and do not see what's happening, yeah, go ahead. You know? And maybe, you know, again, depending on your belief system, you know, maybe in your next incarnation or whatever cycles in the future on some other timeline, they'll see. But there's a lot of people, it's kind of like, I think, although they didn't know it at the time, there were people that were born to take the carjack, and there were people that were born not to take the carjack.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's something to this energetically, and it's hard to say, no offense, whether it's ignorance versus knowledge or wisdom, or if it's just like past life experience with a certain paradigm versus a different one. Who knows, right? But there is a reason for this, which I find really amazing. Myself, I may have mentioned this to you, or maybe on air before, I feel almost like this lifetime, like right now, we're on this third dimensional plane talking to each other. This lifetime, maybe for some of us, it might be our last one on this plane, but I'm not sure of that. But I think we can say maybe the last of this type of setup. There's some, the Great Reset is not just some kind of like economic, political reset. It is in the physical sense, but spiritually, there's a direction that the elites are trying to take us. And so maybe as a collective, there are two paths. You can go this road or that. I don't know. It's really weird.
Well, when you start getting into this area beyond just the quote unquote hard facts, it's difficult to prove anything. But if you look at a lot of the mythologies and kind of ideas that have been floating around, there's a general consensus. No matter if you're a transhumanist robot person, or a New Ager, or evangelical Christian, or Muslim, or it's basically in all systems that we're coming to some kind of pinch point. That this chapter of whatever we've been in is coming to a close, and it would seem to me that because even for those of us that we've kind of known about the possibility of something like the lockdown of 2020 happening, right? It's still kind of traumatizing, but I think one of the reasons why it seems to me like they had to speed up their plans.
Yes.
And that's why it's been so haphazard. Like the best made plans, sometimes they don't even work out for the Reptoid controllers.
Well,
but I think that too many people were waking up, and so what they're trying to do is create a matrix within the matrix to keep the slaves captured. So yeah.
Well, look at all the protests that in France and Italy. As a matter of fact, I was walking. I don't watch much TV, but there's TV here in the home that's on a lot. And I walked by the news, and they actually brought up the French and Italian protests on the standard mainstream news. So that's a big story that they can't ignore, because generally they're going to try to ignore and play down all this, But it was on there, so I'm thinking, okay, well, hello, people, this is your sign to pay attention, right?
Well, I don't know if you saw this, but the protesters in France.
Yeah.
They got a sewage truck, and they sprayed Macron's, I guess it's a presidential, house or palace or something like that, with liquid, excrement.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
So you know what? Those they're letting it be known what they think of Macron and the policies of the government.
Yeah, there was a video too of somebody literally almost wanting to slap him. Or trying to. I don't know if you saw that one. He was greeting a crowd, and someone almost reached out to try to slap him. So.
Well, these controllers have such egos. They think they're God.
Yeah.
But they're just part of this matrix reality too. So it's like somebody got to play the bad guy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was saying about the energy tools is, if you start being proactive and getting out of the fear-based mentality, it really, I think your whole life starts to improve. At minimum, hey, I think everybody could use refreshing deep sleep.
Sure.
But I'll tell you something that I notice. It's very subtle, but if you're around these energy tools like the pyramid power, organite pyramids, wearing like scalar energy pendants, shungite, so forth. It's very subtle, but over time, your mentality starts to shift, because I look where I started out to when I started making like powered devices, powered pyramids. And then, there's a number of my clients. I don't broadcast this that publicly, like say on the YouTube or whatever, I don't make it a selling point. I'll say that. But as far as like the manifestation, and the radionics and those kinds of things,
Mm-hmm.
Very impressive results. And like I was saying, it's like people have a lot more power than they even realize.
Yeah.
And so so I look at to where I started with, just basic pyramids. They're basically pyramid sculptures, has the energy to it, but it's pyramid castings, pyramid sculptures.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was making these powered devices that connect to frequency generators. I'm like, how did I go from point A to point B?
Right.
I think it has to be from being around these energies 24/7 years.
So. They revived you. Oh, listen, Masaki, in about a minute, it's going to be a top of the hour break.
Sure.
I'm just hearing you, oh, there it is. There's the music. Okay. This is Noreen Helphand, Wild at Heart Roundtable Show, and we will be right back in a little bit. Stay tuned.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Be evasive. But that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
And Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Noreen Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Welcome back to Wild at Heart Roundtable Show with Noreen Helphand, and I have my guest Masaki Miyagawa with us tonight, and he's been explaining a lot about his journey with the organite pyramids and other, I guess, free energy explorative devices, and then also his spiritual journey, in his life that led him to that, and other revelations. Nick, did you have any questions for Masaki? My friend Nick is on with me tonight too.
Hi there. Yeah, wonderful show. I don't have a lot of questions. I don't really delve into, I don't even know what to call that kind of research. It's energy research, I guess. I did want to get some orgonite. I'd heard of its capability of deflecting chemtrails somehow. I'm not sure how that all works. But I did manage to get some shungite, which I used to put in these things I used to carry my water in. Now I've got an under sink filter, so I don't need to put. So I don't know how to get the shungite into there. I did buy another accessory for my filter. It is Japanese. It's full of something that the Japanese used in these little pellets that I guess for hundreds of years in Japan, they would run water through these pellets, and the water would pick up some of the minerals from these pellets and are very good for you. And yeah, these pyramids sound interesting. It's another example of how, we have a lot of secret organizations out there that have, used the power of things like the pyramid. And, I guess for the most part have used that kind of thing against us and have kind of maligned their powers so that, you like pyramids, you must be a Mason because they like pyramids, right? Well, no, that's a good way to take some of these things back and understand that this is human creativity and human ingenuity that, that has been, again, taken away for the purpose of being used against us. And, way to go. Bravo for taking some of these things back.
Oh, Masaki, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was talking about shungite, right? So you can make shungite water. So
right. It's really good.
There's different grades of shungite. So the most common is like a black stone. It's a lower grade, but the only difference is if it's the high grade, they call noble or elite shungite. It's like 99% carbon 60. So it will treat the water a lot quicker than the black shungite. The black shungite is cheaper, but it's going to take a longer time for, basically you have to let the stones sit in the water for a longer time. But yeah, it's something interesting to try, making shungite water. There's a whole site. It's not my site, but if you guys are interested in because each one of these topics, it's like a whole field of its own, right? So if people are interested in making their own water, which you might think like, well, wow, what does that even mean, right? But there's a whole area of structured water, and the kind of water we're getting in the plastic bottles or through the just the common city, piping, the water piped into your home is basically quote unquote dead. It has a very high surface tension, which means your body doesn't absorb it. I don't know if you noticed, but you can drink like a whole bottle of bottled water and it just goes in and out. Your body doesn't really absorb as much as it could. But if you structure water, check out this. If you want to get into or kind of look into this topic, check out the site dancingwithwater.com.
All right.
There's a book, and they have all the products on there for water specific things. But basically, I've done this before. I have so many tools, Noreen. It's hard to stay focused on one thing, right? But when I have time, I do make my own water. So I basically have a water distiller, right, which makes distilled water.
I actually buy distilled water still. I like using it. Yeah, that's good. You have your own machine.
So then you have the distilled water, and then I add the salt speck in it. You can put some of the fulvic and humic acid in, like some people know it as shilajit, right? And you can vortex it, and then there's drops that you can add to further lower the surface tension. So it sounds funny, but you can actually make water wetter. Because if it has a low surface tension, you could drink a gallon of quote unquote structured or living water, and it will just absorb straight into your body. And there's many health conditions or so-called diseases that are actually affected by dehydration. A lot of us, we're actually dehydrated and we don't even know. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amongst other things that afflict us. I actually won a reverse osmosis filter, and I have it in my shed. So eventually, I guess I'm going to install that. But yeah, these interesting things about water. I think maybe, do you sell like the tumblers or gemstones of the higher grade shungite?
I used to, but I don't anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I've tried a lot of different, I've offered a lot of different things over the years, but I'm very boutique, and I'm kind of, I feel like, if people have been following me for a while or they're on my shop email, I gave a notice at the end of last year and again in the new year for 2021 that I felt that this would be the last year I'll be making pyramids in the same way I have been. And then I had a health crisis. I think I told you. And I think even Robert Phoenix mentioned it on the show. It's like, oh, Masaki's going through some stuff. And basically, I overworked myself. I basically worked 24/7 for 7 years straight.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I knew intuitively that something was going to change. But I didn't think I would be forced to slow down. So I'm kind of like winding down my shop right now. Probably going to be traveling, in the next year or something like that. So if people are interested, I do have a lot of the, some of my things, they're more in the higher tier. You're talking about handmade powered pyramids that work in conjunction with, they can be powered by a Rife machine or frequency generator. Obviously, to some people it might be expensive, but it's handcrafted. But I've always tried to have things that are, inexpensive or accessible to even the average person. So I do have some, the Tower Buster muffins and those kind of things that people can easily, try out for, like, set of Tower Busters could be like $40 or something like that,
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, really? Surprised at the price on that.
Well, actually prices are going up because I was kind of shocked. I went out to go buy resin, polyester resin, maybe a week or two ago. And in just a couple months, the price went up over 25%. That's a lot. The price jumped that much. So, it's still, my prices haven't gone up that much, but I think in the future, some of these things are so boutique because they're handmade.
Sure.
That if you like something or are interested in something, I would get them sooner rather than later.
I get it. Sure.
And I'll say something else, that there are devices that are purely electronic. So they'll be like almost look like a cell phone size that you can slip in your pocket. Some of them are like a box or cube thing that you plug in at home, and it will throw out a powered field that will be very similar to, say, like the Organite pyramid. It's neutralizing the chaotic frequencies that are affecting us every day. But what I noticed, now I don't have any citation or anything to prove this 100%, but working with these tools every day for years, this is my sense, is that the purely electronic devices work. You can muscle test them, they work. They're great. But there is something to the handcrafted energy tools that have, say, like the natural stones, the quartz crystal, the shungite, these kind of things. It has not only the positive energy effect, but there's something, I don't even know what to call it, but it's something like consciousness energy or something that bumps you up on that level too. So what I would just tell people is, just start trying things out on your own and see what you notice. Sure. But it's a very subtle thing I've noticed with a lot of the handcrafted tools. It may sound hokey or flaky, but it's almost like it's more living you know. And
Right.
I also have a number of the copper tensor tools or the tensor rings on my site. And I thought these copper, they're like energy pendants, right?
Mhm.
I thought this was total BS when I first encountered it, right? Because it's basically copper wire you could get at a hardware store,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's cut and then soldered into a ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can that be that powerful? Let me tell you, Noreen, it is powerful.
Oh.
And the secret comes from the length they're cut to. And the tensor rings use the sacred cubits from the ancient temples and megalithic structures and pyramids. So basically, you can think of it like this. If you have a wire and you cut it just a straight length, right? Depending on the length you cut it to, and you cut it to these sacred cubits, they start to vibrate like a tuning fork to specific frequencies or energies. And then if you take that straight wire and you bend it into a circle and you solder it, right? One side, it has polarity. One side is positive and one side is negative of the ring, right? But if you take a wire, well, actually, you'd braid it. You take two wires, right?
Mm-hmm.
You twist it into a helix, just like the DNA is like helix, right? It has a twist in it. So you have two wires, helix, you twist it, braid it like that. You cut it to a cubit length, sacred cubit length, and then you solder it into a circle. Now it has no polarity. It has it's positive on both sides, so you don't have to worry. Am I wearing it the right way or whatever? Both sides are positive. So with these tensor tools, it's they're copper rings, right? They're very powerful, and not only that, they're lightweight. Because I've often gotten the question, why don't you make pendants? Why don't you make orgonite pendants, right?
Sure.
For me, I factor in a number of things, including price point, the strength or power of the pendant, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a much cheaper price point with a lot of power, and it's lightweight with the copper tensor rings rather than an orgonite pendant, because the orgonite benefits from how much material it uses, right?
Sure.
So plastic resin is a lot heavier than a copper wire. And I could make a very strong pendant, but I'd probably start considering things like real gold, those kind of things. Then you're starting to push the price point up.
Yeah.
So the copper tensor rings, very good energy tool. And if people are interested, look up this man, Slim Sperling. And he was the real master. Well, he's passed away now, but he was the real master of the tensor tool technology, and very good energy tool. And if you muscle test a good tensoring, they just fit in the palm of your hand, right? It can be as strong as a orgonite pyramid.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow, you've discovered a lot of adjacent technologies that seem to mirror other ones, and that's a good way to expand your repertoire and share with people all this knowledge. I want to ask you, I know you deal with cryptocurrency and all that, and right now I think a lot of people would agree that right now is a time period where it's like getting in on it now might be like the tail end of this. And what do you have to share to people that are interested in doing it now? Like, is there any tips or any comments about that?
Okay, well, I do cover cryptocurrency on my Patreon, and it's more because it's my own personal interest. So it's not financial advice, but I just kind of follow the trends and make comments, So cryptocurrency, I think when it came out, so Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. And there was a lot of talk, libertarian type talk about, we're going to get away from the bankers, and it's totally transparent because there's a set number of tokens and they won't be able to inflate it and all that. You know what? Sounds real good, but the reality is quite different. Okay. Yeah. So, and I think also, like anything, it's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily good or bad, but it's based on the consciousness level of the people that are using it. So
Okay.
I think that it's money, right? And is the fiat money we use today so great? If you're in the U.S., we happen to have greenbacks that have the all-seeing eye on it. What's that about, right?
Right.
Have the pyramid with the all-seeing eye on it, right? That says no Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new world order of the ages. I mean,
Yeah.
So people, we've been using that our whole life, and then people are so worried about the cryptocurrency. What I would say is, just like everything else is kind of speeding up and bumping up to like another level, right? The whole Aquarian trend.
Sure.
Well, the money's gonna have to go Aquarian too. So it's definitely, I think, the entry to the beast system.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's good to at least, even if you never invest in it, I think it's important to at least understand what it's about. And I would set up a cryptocurrency wallet just so you can be able to receive, not even
That's a good
invest,
idea.
right? Because we're on the cusp. Well, we're in the reset, right? And part of that's the economic reset. And I think that even though cryptocurrency, it's definitely, there's that element there that wants to use it for total control, But I think also that we're in a middle adoption phase right now. And probably the next year and a half. Now, like, not financial advice, but I think that some great fortunes could be made. And for people of our mind, number one, I think that because the money, it's hyperinflating right now.
Right.
So to try to offset that, it might not be a bad idea to have a foot in the crypto space. But then also, if you go above and beyond, not just kind of like maintain your buying power, but you actually make some profits, right? I've already experienced this of people that are, because there are people out there that are self-made, like crypto millionaires or so forth, that have been benefactors to me. So I think there's many of us that are aware of or already involved in the crypto space that, if we make some profits, we'll be able to actually use that as leverage to help people or do things in a positive way.
Great point. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I see. So, I think. Yeah, I don't know how specific you want to get, but I think we're very. If we didn't already hit the market bottom, because the whole crypto market's been going sideways to down for months. I think that we're pretty close to, if the bottom isn't already in, it'll be in within the next couple weeks. And then there should be a big run fall of 2021 this year. And then there could be a big pullback at the end of the year. And then I think we'll have another run maybe spring, summer of 2022. Then after that, I think there's going to be a lot of regulation that's going to come in. And
that's
yeah. Because think about it, they don't want people making this kind of money. I see. This is just my observation. There's a lot of hood cats. Like I see people posting on social media, that are like, hey, I'm riding on Shiba Inu coin or Dogecoin or something like this, right? And I'm like, wow, the streets is really knowledgeable about cryptocurrency. You know why? Because if you know what you're doing, and this is a whole Aquarian theme, right? If you have the mind, the mental power, because who made cryptocurrency? Nerds, basically, right? And I will tell you, I'm no dum-dum, but there's times that I start getting sweat beads because it's all abstract and virtual, right? You send a transaction, it's like, did it really get there? Is everything okay? I mean, you don't know until you see the balance, of the transaction.
Yeah, I think if you have a slight technological edge, it can be helpful. in this realm, what you're talking about, because, if you don't know how to like track it, maybe, right? Then, like you said, it's like a different world. You kind of have to know how to track that whole thing. Yeah.
So basically, Aquarius rules the oddballs and incels, nerds, right? Definitely the people that made cryptocurrency, they didn't make it very accessible to the average person, right? So in this middle phase, the people that can work the crypto system, because it's a smaller percentage of the population, I think they can make great profits. But I think in the future it'll probably be integrated where you don't even see that level, because Visa and MasterCard, they're already integrating cryptocurrency into their payment system.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having to know all the wallet addresses, if people are not familiar with cryptocurrency, they're virtual wallets basically, right?
Sure.
That have like could be like a 20, 30 digit number, and that's your wallet.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, send me X amount of Bitcoin to this address. It's very kind of like odd compared to how people have traditionally transacted money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the future, I think it's going to be as simple as just like we swipe a credit card today.
Yeah.
You swipe it and it's going to pull from your crypto, something like that. But at that point, the profit potential won't be there anymore,
Correct.
because then it's already been brought down to the common street level. It's in this period we're in right now. I think this next year and a half is probably the last time you're going to see the ability to make a lot of
yeah, that's what they say. It's kind of winding down now because of all these reasons.
But if you just understand the basic way cryptocurrency works, all transactions are recorded on what they call the blockchain,
right?
Which is basically just a ledger of what is bought and sold and transacted, and moved from wallet to wallet. And each transaction is added to a public ledger, just like an Excel spreadsheet, bought, sold, or like it moved from this wallet to that wallet. Now, these wallet addresses are just numbers. They're quote unquote anonymous. But trust me, you don't think the IRS has forensic software to figure out where this is going? Like right now, I don't think they have a total handle on it. But in the future, they'll be able to see where the money was going to. To me, it's just like I was saying. It's just an upgrading, or it's a transmutation of the current money system up to an Aquarian type money system. But because there is a public ledger of all transactions, that means that, everything you've ever done, from this point forward, basically everything you've ever done will be public.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, so for the powers that be, they want to integrate all tracking, all that kind of stuff into the blockchain,
Yeah.
So it could have, that's the thing though. It's really based on the consciousness of the conscious level of the society that's using this technology, So probably don't want to be in the smart cities going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
right now,
I like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I like, being involved in the crypto space because I have a lot of Capricorn energy. So to me, it's kind of natural. Like I can work that money, but then also it's very interesting, Noreen. This has been said, and I believe it to be true, that people that are kind of lighthearted and kind of have a playful element in the crypto space tend to do better than people that are overly serious. And remember, Aquarius energy is kind of oddball, right? So I don't know if you know this, but some of the strongest tokens or coins in the crypto space are the ones that are meme coins. So like a Dogecoin, the one with the Shiba Inu dog on it.
Right.
There is no reason for Dogecoin to be where it is today, but there it is. It's one of the top performing coins. So, you know, it's kind of like if you have the oddball mind, you might do a lot better than some typical above board financial person. Because I had a lot of Dogecoin even before I blew up. And then people were like, well, how did you know? I said, I didn't know. I mean, obviously, cryptocurrency being, having that monetary aspect, it is financial, but a lot of my reasons wouldn't make sense to the average person. You know what my reason was for having Dogecoin?
What?
There's two. Number one, I just liked it because it was kind of funny. Like, oh, that's kind of funny, right? And it was, when I accumulated a lot of it, it was under a penny. So it wasn't that expensive to do. But the other reason was, in my mind, Bitcoin's kind of boring. So I'm like, you know what? If cryptocurrency blows up, I'm going to do it with the coin you're not supposed to do it with, the one with the Shiba Inu on it,
Oh, right.
So does that even make sense to the average person, the financial mind? It makes no sense at all. Unless you understand that cryptocurrency is Aquarian. So some oddball things can really pop off in an oddball time.
What did you say crypto is what? It's what?
Well, cryptocurrency is Aquarian because
yeah. Okay.
It's an abstraction of money. It's like literally being transacted.
Not only is it abstraction, but it's unpredictable, right? Kind of.
Well, yeah, that's another thing is
besides being
huge up and down moves. And even if you look at the astrological symbol of Aquarius, it looks like two waves that are going up and down. So, very sharp up and down moves.
Yeah.
You're talking about, on some of these coins, it could be like they're probably 70% down from their peak in like May of this year.
Wow.
So for the average person, they might think it's over, but when the things swing up again, it could make explosive up moves. But yeah, I mean, if you're your typical average person, and especially if you're older and you just don't want to lose money, I would think about just like the more traditional vanilla coins with investment people would call blue chip, like Bitcoin. The common was Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. But some of these smaller altcoins, like the penny coins, if you put a little bit, like, I don't know, again, not financial advice, but if you put like 25% into some of these smaller coins, could be very explosive, Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing world. There was something I was going to ask you that was kind of related to this whole crypto thing, and I can't remember what it was. There was somebody, God, who was it? I can't recall the name. He might have been like one of those YouTube chef people, and he had some relationship with this crypto thing, but I think that he lost money, and I can't think of who it was.
You know what? If you haven't made a mistake or lost money in the crypto space, you really weren't doing it.
Okay.
Because, yeah, and you know what? Let me emphasize. High risk equals high reward and vice versa. So because the kind of returns for cryptocurrency, like 10x or like, multiplying 10 times is not uncommon. So I think that's like 1,000%.
Right.
10x is not uncommon for cryptocurrency. And, I've seen like 80, 100x before. So, I mean, but the thing is that, just understand with anything, if you're seeing those kind of returns, you better understand you could lose everything too, because that's the way it goes, High risk equals high reward. So, and then that's what I was saying too. I think we're in the last period where these kind of gains are going to happen, because in a couple of years, maybe 2023, end of 2022, you're going to start to see a lot more regulations, and then the space will be more mature. You're not going to see.
Right. You won't see the wild fluctuations as much. It'll even out. It'll kind of stabilize. Yeah.
Yeah. So and again, it's money. Is money material things? Is that the most important? Like, no. But it's one of the themes that, I think it's a big mover in our culture right now. Whether it's the total B system or not, at least be aware of it, because it's and what's interesting too is I noticed that people in Asia are much more, I guess, into the crypto space than here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was even surprised. I had some people that liked my videos and they said, "Oh, we want to give you a tip or something." I thought they were going to send me like PayPal or something, and it was like $10 or something. But they're like, "No, we'll send you some Ethereum." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh wow, that's nice.
Yeah, so and they were from India, so in some ways, there's areas of definitely like Korea, very advanced crypto space there. There's more.
I was transacting. I had a feeling about Korea when you were just saying that. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there's more money transacting in the crypto space than in the South Korean stock market.
I wanted to say, you've got a lot of positive comments in chat room. There is one question though, statement. I don't know what you think it is, but I think it's an interesting comment, and I'm not sure you would agree. You don't have to, but someone in there says, as a private trader, I increased net worth last 10 years. What are you guys doing wrong? Trust makes 38%. I'm not sure what he's talking about. I don't know. That's
I don't know. Well, I will tell you. I mean, unless you're like using leverage, like derivatives leverage, I don't know of any other asset class that makes the kind of gains that the crypto does.
Yeah,
without
leverage,
I know.
Right.
But then at the same time, like I said, just be careful because it's high risk. You can easily make mistakes, because you're basically, the whole idea is like you're your own banker, right?
Right.
Guess what? If you send to the wrong address, you forget your password, something, ain't nobody to call to help you out,
Right. I see what you mean.
And then also, it's already happening now, but as the crypto space really starts heating up, and I think part of it is going to be because the traditional financial system is collapsing, and the dollar and other national currencies are going to hyperinflate to zero, right? So that's really going to make a rush into safe haven assets like gold and silver, but then also you're going to see a big movement into crypto. So of course, scammers and thieves are really start hammering and looting people.
No,
it's already happening now, but that's another thing, right? And just like I was saying, you're your own banker, so clicking on links and whatever, and you think you're talking to tech support, but it's really the scammer.
Yeah,
it's already happening now, and it's going to continue into the future. So just be aware and try to be.
That's great advice, because what I was saying earlier about being on top of this, you got to know what you're doing. And the level you're talking about too is kind of like the whole scammer level. The crypto world's not immune to it.
Yeah,
obviously,
so,
because you don't know.
Honestly, the way things are right now, I think most of the public can't even do crypto. But it will become, like I was saying, Visa and MasterCard are already integrating, and like PayPal and Venmo, they're already integrating crypto, and it will be at a level where the average person, they won't really see that level of doing all the mundane things that people traditionally have to do for crypto. They'll just swipe the card and it'll pull from whatever crypto you have loaded onto the card, you know. But yeah, it's an interesting trend. I've been covering it on my Patreon. And there's this idea too that I'm going to sit on my Bitcoin or whatever for like 10 or 20 years and then I'm set for life, right? I don't know. This space is changing so quickly. I think you can only project out like a year or two at a time. You know?
I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a major theme, and the people that are into it seem to be super into it, and then there's a lot of the public that I think a lot of people will be forced to try to catch up. That's what I'm saying. Even if you're not into it, be somewhat aware of the crypto space and how it works, because I think a lot of people will be forced out of survival instinct into considering crypto, because the hyperinflation, like I was saying, it's hitting now, but it's going to get really ridiculous within short time. I think within 6 months or a year, you're going to really see the loss of the prices are moving up because the paper currencies are losing the buying power, Yeah.
I have a question and comment, sort of. So, when we have these economic crises, it turns out you look throughout history and they didn't just happen, and it's not
planned.
because. Oh yeah. They were caused every time, and so what we have is a system right now that is so prone to corruption, and it was created more than 2,000 years ago. It was a completely different world back then when this economic and political systems were created. And what's one of the main differences today that was different from back then is that we have abundance now. We can create so much that they can print and print and print and spend and give themselves enormous assets and suck away everything that we create, leaving us barely enough to survive. And yet still, there's no crash, there's no hyperinflation. So again, if the hyperinflation does occur, it will have been contrived because the system is.
Oh well, they knew from the day they started the Federal Reserve that there's a limited timeline, So
yeah, that's what that was created for. So I'm thinking, what is it about this United States dollar that has the entire world just completely handcuffed and chained, to a desperation like that? Why don't we do our own reset? We need to get rid of this Federal Reserve, get rid of the dollar, and create what I would call, tentatively titled the people's dollar. And, one thing, another, I guess, brings up an idea, a newer idea I had your discussion tonight. What if we were to replace the world banking system with a cryptocurrency, which, the advantage of a cryptocurrency is, as you said, the blockchain is a record. There can't be any fraud because, there's a record for everything.
Well, I would say two things. Number one of the talking points for cryptocurrency was there would be no inflation, right? Or you could set it up for cryptocurrency to have a set number of tokens. But what didn't exist when Bitcoin was created was the so-called stable coins, like the USDT Tether token, and there's a number of other ones. And so they've been printing these stable coins just like the Fed. So that really introduced a lot of liquidity, but then inflation into the market, So there is inflation in the crypto space. The other thing is, I think you're exactly right. And there's a number of tokens that could be used as more of like a free currency. But there's centralized and decentralized blockchains, right? So they're pushing, say, like the Ripple XRP, centralized blockchain. And I think that maybe within like 2 years out, they're going to start to bring in regulations around these centralized blockchains. And you can already see there's certain standards that are available online according to like their banker regulations of what tokens will probably survive the regulation, and then probably like 99% of these cryptos will not really exist anymore a couple years out. So most of the big coins, they'll still be around, but that's what I was saying though, is like people that think how it is right now will be the same as 5 or 10 years out. I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. Yeah. And we don't even know who Satoshi is. Satoshi Nakamoto that created Bitcoin.
Yeah, right.
Like it could have been a team of coders. It could have been one guy, but we don't know who Satoshi is, And you also have to remember, one of the first uses of cryptocurrency was on the dark web, like Silk Road, for buying contraband and that kind of thing,
Ah, right.
So, we really don't know who created. It's a mystery who created Bitcoin. People kind of gloss that over, but think about that one.
Yeah, it's probably not just one person. Maybe see that it's usually kind of like that,
Yeah. So you know what? Very, very complicated issue, the cryptocurrencies, but for those that are interested, I think that right now we're at an all-time market low. So if you were thinking about getting, again, not financial advice, but if you've ever been thinking about buying crypto, these are pretty much the lowest prices you're going to see at these levels. This is the last time, I think.
Yeah, that's what I heard even from someone else. So I think that's probably a fact. That's what's going on with that trend.
Yeah. So, again, I think that, well, what's interesting, Noreen, is I had run some terms. I can't remember which word it was, whether it was cryptocurrency or blockchain or whatever. I ran it through a gematria, the Kabbalistic numerology gematria calculator. And there was something that popped up that was either like literally Saturn or something like that. So it's just telling you, like, yeah, cryptocurrency is Saturnalian. It's money. It's banking. So don't fool yourself into thinking that it's all.
That is Jupiterian, right? There is a Jupiter side to making wealth, but
right, but
in the fact that has to do with money, right?
Yeah, just the fact that it's a virtual form of currency or money, right? I mean, that's part of it. So, I mean, like anything, like I was saying, there's definitely some beast system elements to it. But on the other hand, Aquarius is the sign of the rebellious teenager, right? Sure. Mm-hmm. So, and Aquarius is kind of like out Pandora's box, out the box. So they're, and we've all known, the young kids or younger people, they'll find a way. So there may be some of these 4chan incels that just flip it in a way the system don't even expect, So. Yep.
Well, that's interesting to even think about something like that, that can happen or is happening.
Let me just say this one last thing. I get some criticism sometimes because I've talked before about crypto and things like that, and there's a mentality of like, oh, why is it so materialistic and why are you talking about that, but it's part of our world,
Sure.
And we live in a 3D material world. Mm-hmm. But the other side of it is we have the energetics, or, another word for energy is spirit. So I think that as long as you cut a balance between the materialist mind and the spiritual mind, that's fine, because that's the yin yang, right? It's like you need a balance between both, but it's a very common thing, especially among the holistic people, that they have a problem with money, and it's I just see it as a flow. I mean, it's part. We live in a 3D world,
Sure.
so it's not good to be overly material focused, but at the same time, I think you can be unbalanced if you're super floaty and in your head.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just to switch, we have about maybe 8 to 10 minutes left of the show. I guess just to switch gears a little bit, sometimes when I'm looking at chat, people talk about health and food. I was going to ask you, have you ever placed food under one of your pyramids? And did you
I haven't done that, but one of the known effects, if you're using a pyramid frame, right? So this is interesting because there's such a thing called shape power. So just the shape of a pyramid, like a pyramid frame. So it's not even solid. It can just have like rods, right? In a pyramid shape. That actually has a powerful energy to it. So the geometry, different geometries have different energies. You know what the worst shape to live in is?
Round?
The cube. Because the Saturn is restriction, right?
Oh.
So the energy circulation in a square box it's very stagnant. But if you have
most of us live in rooms that are cubes, correct? So
exactly. In the corporate buildings is basically a metal cube, right? So if the ETs or another race came here and they look around, like, oh man, we got some cavemen here because they're living in cubes. So, but if you so a superior shape would be like a cone, like an onion dome, or like pyramid, right? And if you put food in a pyramid frame, it won't decay as fast. In fact, it will actually desiccate, but it won't rot.
Okay.
No. You can also charge supplements with a pyramid frame. Yeah, because that's one thing a lot of people don't consider. And again, on the far end, if you're totally 3D material mind, that's what you call Satanism.
Sure.
Saturn rules the 3D world, and if you only consider the material, well, that's the satanic mind. It's this material reductionism, right? So we have these meal replacement shakes. One of the popular ones is called Soylent. They probably got them from Soylent Green, right? It's just like grayish powder that was made for techies that quote unquote don't have time to take a break.
Right.
So they just take this gray powder and make a shake out of it and drink it, right? Because it quote unquote has everything you need, right? And that's totally ridiculous if you look at this gray liquid and then you have like a nice meal, or you say you have a fresh apple, and you say, see, this gray powder has everything you need, right? It's like, well, the energetics is what they're missing out on, right? Because energy is a lot more difficult to quantify.
Right. Another thing I'm going to say about these, just across the board about, liquid, I guess liquid protein, or I mean, just shakes or liquid supplementation. I think it's got its good and bad points. It depends on the quality of the product. And I think it's reasonable to say that some people might really benefit from doing a shake a day or whatever. But I don't think that those things, as you say, can ever completely replace food, because even though the shake or the drink is a food also, but it has a limitation, like you said. So we need all the nutrients from different sources that we can get. Myself, I mean, I talk about it a lot on my show, my transition. I'm not hardcore anything, but you and I discussed health and stuff. So as of now, like, I don't really eat a lot of wheat. I eat sprouted wheat bread. Ezekiel, I kind of got away from the dairy. I don't consume hardly any dairy anymore. Kind of low on, obviously, sugar, not really. Low on the protein intake. I still eat chicken and fish the most, but I cut it down. So I made a lot of adjustments, and I think I had no choice, to do that. And I'm sure maybe in your life you've made some adjustments. Oh my God, we only have like a couple of minutes left, but if you want to talk about anything to do with health or dietary things you've been going through, that would be kind of interesting because I'm always looking at chat and people are talking about food and nutrients all the time. And
I'm a meat eater. I'm not a vegan or vegetarian, but I'll tell you that one thing I think that most people lack is live food.
Right.
So
exactly.
Especially most people, they're just buying packaged drinks, right? So those drinks, especially if it's like fruit juice or something, is basically sugar water because they've pasteurized it, which kills all the enzymes.
Unless you get it like organically and fresh.
So one great thing people can do is get a juicer.
I have a juicer. I mean, I use it, but I hate the cleaning up, but I love the product. When you make the juice, it's like really creative.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the other thing I would say too is with anything, don't overdo it because one of the things that a lot of people don't know is like green juices are great for cleansing.
Yes, they are.
But both Chinese medicine and the Ayurveda or the Ayurvedic medicine, they say that if you take, especially like green juice continually, your body will start to break down. So if you're doing it for like 6 months, a year, it's too much. They call cooling, right? So they look at the digestion as like a fire. So if you keep pouring cold food on
the yin food,
it'll slow down your digestion to just a crawl. So again, like anything, it's great. And a lot of people, they get enthused because when they start out on like a quote unquote cleaner diet, they say, well, this is the answer because it's a cleanse. You're breaking down stuff that your body doesn't need, right? But then after you break down, you got to build it back up. So don't my thinking, you do you, but my thinking is you can do the green juice for a while, but then switch it up or take a break,
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, that's the music. It's the end of the show. I want to thank Nick and Masaki, and come back again, Masaki. Everybody's really enjoying you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. This has been Noreen Helphand Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.